When a tenured professor chooses you for a mentorship no one else even knew existed, you start to think you've made it. I did. I was a senior at Beckmore College, a small liberal arts school tucked between cornfields and train tracks in central Illinois. Nothing fancy, but it was the best I could afford, and it had a solid psych program. I was a first-gen college kid, raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs. Everything I did at school had a purpose. No wasting time, no messing around. By the start of my final year, I had straight A's, 2 internships, and 1 goal: grad school. Somewhere far from Beckmore. Somewhere that paid for smart, hardworking kids like me. That's when I met Dr. Sabine Clark. She changed everything, and not in a way I expected. I'd had 1 class with her before, social psychology. She was sharp, quick-talking, always in control. You could tell students admired her, but they were a little afraid of her too. She never smiled unless it was for a point. Her lectures felt like TED Talks, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. I did well in her class. Not the best, but strong. She gave me a handwritten comment on my final paper. Impressive synthesis. You think like a researcher. That sentence sat in my brain like gold. So when I got an email from her over winter break saying she wanted to talk about a research opportunity, I almost didn't believe it. The first meeting was in her office, 2nd floor of the Humanities Building. Her door had a brass plate with her full title, Dr. Sabine Clark, Department of Psychology Faculty Fellow. Inside, her office was clean and cold. No family photos, no dusty books, just sleek furniture and 1 window that faced the quad. "Micah," she said, standing up and offering her hand. "I've been following your work." It felt strange to hear that, like I was someone worth watching. She explained that she was launching a new research project, a study on student motivation and burnout. It would involve designing surveys, collecting data, possibly even co-writing a paper. "I only take 1 student a year for this," she said, "and I want that student to be you." I remember nodding slowly, trying to act calm, even though my heart was pounding. "This kind of project looks very good on grad applications," she added. "Eyes sharp? And you've earned it." At first, it was everything I hoped it would be. We met once a week in her office. She gave me reading lists, access to past data, let me help revise her study design. She talked to me like a colleague, not a student. No one else I knew was getting this kind of access, not even the top psych majors. I started skipping lunch with my friends just to prep more for our meetings. I stayed up late reading academic journals. I cleaned up the data she sent over even when she didn't ask. It felt like leveling up, like I'd finally unlocked the next stage of my life. About a month in, she started getting more personal. 1 meeting ran late, and as I was packing up, she said, "You don't talk much in class, but you're one of the sharpest minds I've worked with in years." I didn't know what to say. I think I just said thanks. Then she asked, "Do you enjoy being noticed, Micah?" It was such a weird question. I half laughed. She smiled, only the 2nd time I'd ever seen her smile without sarcasm. "I mean that in a good way," she said. "Some people shrink when they're seen. You straighten up." I went home thinking about that sentence way too long. My roommate Rami noticed I was distracted. "You've been weird lately," he said one night while we played Halo. "Are you sleeping with your professor or just getting a recommendation letter?" "Shut up." "I'm serious, man. You're jumpy." I told him it wasn't like that, and it wasn't, at least not then. "She's just intense," I said, "but it's all academic." He didn't buy it, but he didn't push either. Looking back, I should have listened more closely to the way he said it. Weeks passed. The project grew. So did her attention. She started texting, not about class, but about ideas, about grad school options, about your kind of brilliance and how it doesn't show up often in small towns like ours. Then she started texting late at night. Once it was 11:42 p.m. "Still awake? I just reread your draft proposal. It's better than most postdocs I've worked with." Then at 12:16 a.m. "You ever wonder what you'd be doing if you were at Columbia or Berkeley instead of Beckmore?" I didn't answer that one. One afternoon, she asked me to stay after our meeting. "I want to ask something," she said, sitting on the edge of her desk. "And you can say no." I nodded, confused. "Would you be comfortable meeting off campus next week? Just to go over some of the trickier stats work. The lab's getting noisy." My stomach tightened. She saw my hesitation. It's not unusual, she said. Plenty of faculty meet with students at cafes or libraries. I just thought it'd be more productive. I said I'd think about it, but something felt off. That night, I couldn't shake it. I scrolled through her old Rate My Professor reviews, which were mostly glowing. Genius, challenging but fair, life-changing. But one stood out. I used to look up to her. Then I got too close. Be careful if she starts giving you attention. No name, no detail, just a warning. The next day, I went digging. I remembered a student from a couple of years ago, Elise Tran, star psych major, honors program. Then suddenly, gone. Dropped out mid-semester. No announcement, no senior project, just disappeared. I found her name on an archived email list from the psych department. That night, I messaged her on Facebook. Me, hey, I know this is random. I'm a psych major at Beckmore. I think you used to work with Dr. Clark. I was wondering if we could talk. She didn't answer right away. But 2 days later, she sent back, Elise, meet me at the Cafe Roxley on Thursday, 4 p.m. Don't tell her. That was the moment the floor started to shift. I didn't know what I was walking into. But deep down, I think I already knew. I wasn't her protege. I was just next. I didn't go to the off-campus meeting with Dr. Clark. I said I had a family thing. That was a lie. Instead, I spent the next few days thinking about the message I got from Elise Tran, the former psych student who'd worked with Clark and then vanished. The way she said, "Don't tell her." Something about it stuck in my head like a warning I didn't know how to read yet. The next time I saw Dr. Clark, she didn't ask about the missed meeting. She just said, "Hope everything's okay," and moved on. Professional, normal, cold even. But it didn't last. That week, she started messaging again. Not about the project. About me. "Dr. Clark, you seem off lately. Just know I'm in your corner. We don't have to talk data all the time. You're not a machine. Let's meet Thursday, one-on-one. We'll regroup." It wasn't the words that bothered me. It was the tone, like she was trying to stay inside my life, even when I pulled back. Rami noticed first. "You're getting twitchy," he said, tossing a protein bar at me while we both studied in our shared room. "She's still texting you?" I nodded. He leaned back in his chair. "You think this is normal?" "I think it's weird," I admitted. "You think she's grooming you?" I looked up fast. "Don't say that." "I'm serious," he said. "Older professor. Power over your future. Too much personal contact. This is the kind of crap they make documentaries about." I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't unhear the word. Grooming. The next day, I met Elise at Cafe Roxley, a tiny place just off campus. She was already seated when I got there, hoodie up, hands wrapped around a mug of tea like she was trying to stay grounded. "You're Micah?" she asked. "Yeah." She nodded, then got right to it. "I was you, 3 years ago." I sat down slowly. "What happened?" She laughed, but it wasn't funny. She picked me out in junior year, said I had a mind for original thought, gave me access to research data, grad school prep, all of it. I listened. She talked like someone unspooling a memory she didn't want to own anymore. She started texting, then calling, then pulling me into department gossip, said I was the only student she trusted. "Did anything happen?" I asked carefully. "Not physically, but..." Elise stared at her tea. She made me feel like my future depended on her mood. Elise told me that one day, she refused to rewrite a section of data that Clark said looked bad for the hypothesis. I said no, she said. And that was it. She shut me out. Emailed the dean saying I wasn't reliable. Took my name off the paper we were co-authoring. I lost my scholarship. I left 2 weeks later. I sat back stunned. She looked at me and said, "You don't look surprised." "I'm not." I said, "Just scared." That night, I stared at my phone for a long time. Unread messages. One from Dr. Clark said, "I'm worried about your energy. If something's bothering you, I want to help." I didn't respond, because I didn't know what help meant anymore. The next day, Clark cornered me in her office after class. "You've been quiet," she said, eyes scanning my face. "Is something wrong?" I hesitated. Then said, "I spoke with Elise Tran." Her face didn't move, not an inch. "I see," she said after a pause. "You left her hanging," I said. "You made her feel disposable." "She wasn't ready for the academic pressure," Clark said smoothly. "She panicked when I pushed her. I've seen it before." That's not what she said. Clark's eyes darkened. "Micah," she said, "you're smarter than this. Don't let old bitterness ruin what we've built." I walked out without another word. For the first time since I met her, I felt nothing but cold. That night, Rami found me pacing the apartment. "What happened?" he asked. "She's trying to twist it," I said, "like I'm the one being dramatic." "Of course she is. That's what manipulators do." I nodded, but something still didn't feel finished. A week later, Clark emailed me a revised version of our project proposal. She said she'd updated the numbers for clarity. When I opened the document, the data was different. The numbers that originally showed weak results were now cleaned up, smoothed out, better for publication. And I hadn't touched them. I printed the original version and the new one, highlighted the changes. Then I went to the only person on campus who could do something about it, Dean Marcus Reeve. Dean Reeve was not warm. He sat behind a desk like it was a wall, not furniture. He took the papers from me, read them slowly. When I told him what Elise had said and what I was dealing with now, he didn't raise his voice, just said, "You did the right thing bringing this to me." He asked if I was willing to file a formal report. I said yes. That night, I sat in the dark with my laptop closed. My phone buzzed with one last message from Clark. "You've changed. I hope this isn't about making a name for yourself." I didn't respond, because I finally saw the truth. This wasn't mentorship. It was control. The weirdest thing about reporting someone like Dr. Clark is how quiet everything gets afterward. No alarms. No whispers in the halls. No angry knock on your door. Just silence. At first, I thought nothing was happening. I kept waiting for some kind of confrontation. An email, a phone call, something. But a week passed. Then another. Classes continued. She still taught her lectures. Still nodded when we passed in the psych building. The only difference was she never spoke to me again. Not one word. The silence messed with my head. It made me wonder if I was overreacting. If maybe the messages and weird late-night texts and the data thing weren't as serious as they felt. It's strange how even when you know someone crossed a line, you start to question yourself. That's what she was good at, making you second guess. The only person who kept me grounded was Elise. We met again a few times, quiet spots off campus. The more we talked, the more she opened up. She showed me old emails Clark sent her, some professional, some not. One message just said, "You're the only one who understands me. Don't disappear on me like the others." I asked her what finally made her quit school. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, she told me if I backed out of the research, I'd be blacklisted from any decent grad program. She said she could make that happen. I believed her, because Clark said the same thing to me once, just phrased differently. I know people in every major lab on the East Coast. Use me as a reference, and they'll open the door before you knock. Now I knew what she didn't say out loud. She could open doors. She could also lock them behind you. Dean Reeve followed up 2 weeks after I filed the complaint. He called me into his office and said, "We've launched a formal inquiry. You won't be contacted by her during this time." I asked if anything would actually come of it. He leaned forward, fingers folded. There have been other concerns in the past, none formally reported, until now. So it wasn't just Elise. It wasn't just me. There were others. I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. Meanwhile, campus felt like a stage with everyone pretending not to look. Some students kept their distance. Some whispered when I passed. A few asked me flat out, "Did you really report Dr. Clark?" I didn't confirm or deny anything. I just kept moving. But word travels fast on a small campus, especially when the professor is someone like her, respected, feared, and protected. It didn't help that she kept teaching, kept smiling, kept being her usual composed self. The difference was now I could see the act for what it was, a performance. I asked Rami if I'd made the right choice. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Micah, she tried to use you to fudge research numbers and control your career. That's not mentorship. That's manipulation with a PhD." He had a point. Still, there was a small voice in my head that whispered, "You were nobody before she picked you." And look what happened when you pushed back. One day, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. I worked with her too. You're not alone. Then another. Unknown. She did this to me. I'm glad someone finally said something. I never responded, but I saved every message. Not to use them, just to remind myself I wasn't crazy. The investigation dragged through midterms. I didn't work on the research anymore. Clark had a new student now. Some sophomore I'd never seen before. When I saw him leaving her office, face flushed with excitement, I felt sick. I wanted to grab him and say, "Watch your back. She doesn't care about you, just what you can do for her." But I didn't, because I knew he wouldn't believe me. I wouldn't have believed it either 6 months ago. The day things finally broke open was a Thursday. Dean Reeve called me in again, this time with a folder in front of him. "We're placing Dr. Clark on temporary academic leave while we conduct interviews with faculty and students," he said. "Does that mean she's guilty?" "It means we're taking it seriously." I asked what would happen if they proved the data manipulation. Depending on findings, he said, she could lose her research position, tenure, or face ethics violations through her certification board. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like cleanup. I saw her one last time before she left. She was walking across the quad, papers in one hand, sunglasses on. A few students walked by and nodded to her like nothing had changed. She didn't look at me. She didn't stop. Just walked right past like I was invisible again. And honestly, that was the most honest thing she'd ever done. I met Elise one more time after that. We sat on a bench outside the admin building, passing a shared bag of peanut M&Ms between us. "You good?" she asked. "Getting there." She nodded. "It never really goes away, the way it messes with your confidence." "I know, but you'll feel stronger," she added. "Not because you beat her, because you didn't let her break you." That part stuck with me. After finals, I found out Dr. Clark had submitted a formal resignation. No press, no statements, no big scene. Just a quiet exit from a quiet college. No one talked about it much after that. The department moved on. A new professor took over her classes. Her name came off the lab door by the end of the week. But for me, it never totally left. Because for a while, I thought she saw something special in me. And maybe she did. But not because she respected it, because she knew how to use it. I used to think I was the lucky one. That's what they always say, right? You're so lucky she picked you. You're lucky to be mentored by someone that's successful. Don't mess this up. Opportunities like that don't come around twice. But now I know I wasn't her protege. I was her shield. The student who made her look ethical. The guy with the clean transcript. The one no one would suspect she was using. When Dr. Clark resigned, campus moved on fast. Students talked about it for maybe a week. Lots of rumors, zero details. Then it vanished, like it never happened. But not for me. I still felt it every time I walked past her old office. Every time a professor said, "Let me know if you need mentorship," and I flinched. Every time I opened my laptop and saw the file she'd altered, still sitting in my drive. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about what I let slide for too long. The thing people don't tell you about emotional manipulation is that it doesn't start with pressure. It starts with flattery. You're different. You're smarter than the rest. No one else sees the world like you do. And when you've worked your whole life for approval, when your whole identity is wrapped up in being good enough, that stuff feels like oxygen. You don't notice how suffocating it becomes until you try to leave. I still saw Rami every day, but even he walked on eggshells around the topic now. He never said, "I told you so." He didn't have to. Instead, he'd just nudge me back toward life. "Let's go shoot hoops. Come to the party. You don't even have to stay an hour. Dude, apply for that research assistant job. What's the worst that happens?" It wasn't some dramatic comeback story, just little steps back to being myself again. And honestly, that mattered more than anything the dean ever said. One day, I got a letter. Real mail. Thick envelope. Return address said, University of Vermont, Department of Behavioral Sciences. It was a grad school offer. Not a full ride, but close. Research track, tuition waiver, small stipend. They said my writing sample was clear, thoughtful, and brave. That's the word that stuck with me. Brave. Not brilliant. Not perfect. Brave. I didn't cry. Not then. But I sat with it for a long time before telling anyone. Elise was the first person I messaged. Me. Got into UVM. They liked the paper I submitted, the one based on our final version before Clark touched it. Told you. You earned this. You still thinking about applying again? Maybe. This time, for the right reasons. I didn't push her. We were both rebuilding, just on different timelines. Before graduation, I got asked to speak at a senior event, something about student resilience and academic integrity. Dean Reeve recommended me. At first I said no, but the night before the RSVP deadline, I thought about all the students who sat in those rows just like I did, believing they had to play the game to succeed. So I said yes. The speech wasn't fancy. I didn't name names. Didn't play the hero. Didn't make it about revenge. I just told the truth. That sometimes the people who seem like they're helping you aren't. That protecting your future sometimes means walking away from the people who promise it. And that your value doesn't come from who chooses you. It comes from who you choose to become when no one's looking. People clapped. A few professors avoided eye contact afterward, but one kid came up to me, a freshman, and said, "Thanks." I thought I was the only one who felt weird about how certain professors treat us. That one comment made it worth it. I graduated without honors. Not because I didn't qualify. I did. But I didn't want my name read out next with distinction, knowing how many students got pushed out for less. I wore the same cheap gown as everyone else, walked across the same stage, took the same handshake from the dean. But it felt different, like I'd earned more than a degree. Like I'd walked away with my integrity intact, bruised, maybe, but still mine. My mom framed the UVM acceptance letter. She hung it in our hallway back home, right next to a photo of me in my cap and gown. She doesn't know the whole story. She just knows I worked hard, got quiet for a while, and came out the other side looking a little more tired and a lot more grown up. I think that's enough for her. Dr. Clark never contacted me again. Last I heard, she was consulting privately, outside academia, doing corporate work in organizational behavior. No students, no lab, no title. I won't say she got what she deserved. I'll just say she doesn't get to shape anyone else like she tried to shape me. That's enough. I still question myself. Still hate that I didn't see it sooner. Still wonder who I'd be if she'd never sent that first email. But I'm learning to stop letting shame answer those questions for me, because I know who I am now. Not a golden student, not someone's project, not her shield, just me. Micah, grad student, survivor of something no one saw coming. And finally, my own person. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?